Welcome to Cultivate the Ordinary podcast, curious conversations for the anxious, frustrated, and bored. I'm Travis.
And I'm Jessie. So often we're held captive by screens, schedules, and media that's mind-numbing and polarizing. This leaves us seeing dimly through a fog. We want to spark more imagination and a better awareness of God's presence in the everyday.
Join us on a fun journey of discovery and curiosity as we look at the ordinary through the lenses of joy, wonder, beauty, and hope. Hey, welcome to a new episode of Cultivate the Ordinary. My name is Travis. I'm your host today, and I am just stoked to be on here. Breathing some life into Cultivate the Ordinary, which has been dormant for a while. We ended the year and kind of did a final wrap episode last year, December or something like that. And I grew up as a farmer, so soil, land, cultivating, that's all kind of in my wheelhouse and imagination. And so I think of it like dormant ground. We used to call it summer fallow, where you just not till it, and it would, I guess, take some time to replenish itself and get the nutrients back in, and then you'd plant it again. And I don't know, maybe there was something here about cultivate the ordinary sitting dormant. But so for quite a while, I have definitely, Jess and I both have wanted to do some new episodes and stuff. And we, both of us have solo podcasts, projects. So she's got an amazing podcast called Transforming Us, which really looks at kind of relationship growth, personal growth, includes, the spiritual component, uses the Enneagram a lot as a tool to kind of a personality tool to assess, to kind of illuminate places in our own personality or the way we're wired, to work on and show up differently also in relationships. And she's got some amazing guests, and it's a really dynamic. I mean, she said it's been huge hit. So check that out, Transforming Us, on all platforms. And Jess is doing some really cool work on that. I also have a podcast called That's So Rad. And yeah, that's been really fun. Just exploring just all kinds of stuff. I've had on friends and old classmates, and kind of just leaning into people's lives and stories, laughing a lot. And I just did an episode on Surge soda and the iconic soda from the 90s, and how did that come about, and what was going on in the cola wars of the 90s. So it's really random, but there's a lot of inspiration, and it's fun as well. So I've had a lot of fun on that. So that's kind of where we've both kind of invested kind of a lot of our time with that stuff. We have a big family and so many other things going on. So Cultivate the Ordinary means a lot to us. It's how we launched kind of in the podcast world, got us going, and it's been super fun and looking back on, and we've had a blast on it. And then, so I've kind of been coming this year of I want to do another episode, at least occasionally, on Cultivate the Ordinary. And, kind of things are in my mind of, I don't know, episode ideas and things like that, and still hadn't gotten to it. And then recently, a week or two ago, there was occasionally we'll just kind of check in, the downloads, or, are people still discovering it? And, man, I mean, 2 back-to-back days, I think there was nearly 200 downloads a day just out of the blue. And it was oh my gosh, what? I was what? How did this just suddenly get crazy traction again. Like, so maybe we got discovered in another country, or uh, there was someone looking for a farming podcast. All of a sudden, that exploded the search for cultivating techniques, and we got accidentally discovered as the wrong podcast for farming techniques. I don't know, but it was really pretty wild to see. So um, I uh, I'm doing something too right now. If you're watching the video of this, I am chewing gum. Not supposed to do that in podcast world. I don't care. I need the gum and the mint on my breath. I think everyone else would appreciate as well in the household. So bear with me. I'll try to not chomp. But what I wanted to hop on today and kind of have the first episode of 2026 be on is a theme and topic I care very dearly about. It really is something that I think about a lot. It's kind of a theme in kind of what I look for in inspiration, and I was reminded last week of I met. I sell a bunch of stuff randomly on Facebook Marketplace, and I've actually had some. I know there's crazy horror stories of people like bad things happening. I've only had almost by and large great experiences. I've in fact met really cool people, and um, in St. Louis, I think I had a random story one time where I met an older couple and we really hit it off, and I think we went out to Denny's. It was crazy. But anyway, I recently sold an exercise bike to a woman. She brought her husband, and got to talking, and find out she's in her 80s, and just seeing her sit down on this thing and try to get her legs pedaling and cycling to use this bike to get kind of back in shape or to get in shape. Um, oh my gosh, I was really inspired by that. I was like, I want to be like that and so she got the bike, and we ended up talking a good bit of just other stuff, and she was talking about her and her husband have a history of traveling and wanderlust, and that's always been a huge part of their story. And we got to talking about like her love of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and which, random fact, Charleston, we're in South Carolina. If you've never been to Charleston, it is one of the most amazing cities in the country. Coastal town, all the history and stuff like that. And I think for the last 10 years, it's led the nation in being the most popular destination. Um, but it was just eclipsed last year, I think, by Santa Fe. And so she starts describing she moved there, fell in love with it, and like why Santa Fe was just so amazing. And I think what was inspiring to me was also like, here's this lady like in her 80s, and her eyes were just glowing, sparkling with life, and just like still so much wonder in the world. And just how she lit up describing this place. And I was like, another thing, like, I want to be like that. I want to be 80 and just fully alive, living fully alive. So that was a backdrop. And then we have land in East Tennessee. We have an Airbnb. It's also a retreat, Shiny Eyes Retreats, retreat. I can put up a link to that to check it out, and love to have you stay out there. But it's a spectacular place in East Tennessee, kind of between Asheville and Knoxville, um, you know, in the Smokies. It's got this panoramic mountain view. It's on a hillside. There's woods. It's just super country. It's an oasis of nature. There's a donkey next door that makes loud donkey sounds. Is going to scare the crap out of someone that's never heard one before. And anyway, where was I going with this? It's a place of enchantment. I mean, it is a place I am mesmerized still by the view. I'm mesmerized by being out there. And every time I go out there and stay or whatever, it's just it's soul care. And I was out there, so we have a trail on there out in the land, and I love mountain biking, so you can hike on it, but um I've worked on the trail to mountain bike, and I just was reminded by a Facebook post that popped up from memories from like whatever time again ago, that I uh, trail building, like it's I come alive, like it's one of my greatest things that I love trail building. I love sculpting, like, hey, this trail's going to cut this way, it's going to and then you clear it, and then you, especially for getting on a bike, get it, and riding around a bend that you created, or like, oh, I'm going to have it cut down through here or there, and it's like it's a lot of work, but it's like it's one of my all-time favorite things. So just reminded of how I come alive doing that. And so I wrote a book in 2019 called Shiny Eyes. Here it is. Seeing Better Through the Lens of Joy, Tears, Beauty, and Hope. Definitely referenced kind of, I know, in this podcast, maybe a quote here and there about it, or from it. I think we've read a small section before. But there, there's one of I love quotes. If you've listened to this podcast, I'm always sharing quotes and love quotes. And there's one of my favorite quotes was by the civil rights activist, theologian, and pastor, Howard Thurman, who said one time, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, and go do that. Because what the world needs is people who've come alive." I think that's a very extremely powerful quote that I think you have to kind of just sit with to really get the depths of it. But it really is just that idea that, we, like, there's all kinds of reasons to engage things, and we should. And, even things that don't make us come alive, but to help others and help our fellow neighbor, and, live out the Great Commission, and love others, as Jesus said. And, but there is something kind of mysteriously powerful, I think, in the way in which we, when we come alive through a passion, a hobby, a thing, not only are we, sort of imaging God, I think, in that, in sort of the joy, the wonder, the things he created in us that, kind of become illuminated in this beautiful world that, Gerard Manley Hopkins, the Jesuit poet, talked about, the world is charged with the grandeur of God. Like, he set it up for us to just, to come alive. And I think we worship him in that. And, anyway, so I think when we see people too that have come alive in their hobby or whatever, there's something inspirational about that. Like, even if you're not into that thing, you're just like, there's just this passion, and there's this, like, I don't know, it's hard to fully explain, but so I think there's something really powerful to, we do need to lean into and keep finding those things that make us alive, make us feel alive. They're good for our soul. They're restorative. They're, they help us be better husbands, wives, dads, moms, friends, because we're filling something in us, our tank, and, so with that being said, what I was going to do for the remainder of this podcast, on the theme of coming alive, having shiny eyes, I do want to read a bit of this, an excerpt from chapter 1 in the book. And it is, I have to find my Kindle to read along. So, okay. So chapter 1 is called Sparkling with Awe and Wonder. So I'm just going to go ahead and read an excerpt from this. A bit of a lengthy one, so hang with me. Hopefully this is something that captures your imagination and you find inspiration from. So there we go. Don't let your life just go in one eye and out the other. Frederick Buechner's line is a haunting yet helpful warning. It convicts me every time I think about it because it's the very thing I've done so much of my life and continue to do. I also know I'm far from alone in this tendency. Many of us fail over and over at heeding this warning because of the frenetic pace of our lives. However, while we blame warp speed schedules and hectic lives, these are truly symptoms more than the cause. If we've switched to living on autopilot, we did so as pilots fully in control. We flipped that switch. The root cause of living and seeing life at warp speed has to do primarily with our lack of awe and wonder in the small and ordinary moments of each day. As T.S. Eliot asks, where's the life we've lost in living? The cumulative effect of this is devastating, and we start to realize this as we become more and more bored and numb to our own lives. As Peter Kraft observes, the most total opposite of pleasure is not pain but boredom, for we are willing to risk pain to make a boring life interesting. Eventually, living with a lack of wonder and awe becomes fatal to our very souls, the core of who we are. Few truer words were ever said than these. The secret of a successful life is not to die before one's death. The fight of your life will end up being the fight for your life. So what is the silent killer that stalks our souls in the shadows? It's disenchantment, according to Abilene Christian psychology professor Richard Beck. The opposite, of course, is to be enchanted, which is to be utterly delighted or captivated. Enchanted, it seems, is the reasonable place we should often find ourselves if we believe the words of the famous English poet Gerard Manley Hopkins, who once said, "The world is charged with the grandeur of God." When in our lives did so many of us cease hearing the crackling pop of God's nearness and seeing the sparks of God's beautiful creation all around us? Not just in nature, but in the creative, redemptive moments of his work in our lives and in the lives of those around us. When did we stop looking for his presence in the everyday moments of life? Richard Beck, who writes extensively on the subjects of enchantment and disenchantment, himself Protestant, says, Protestantism has been a journey from the mystical to the moral. This mystical to moral shift has played a significant role in disenchanting the world. I think it's had a bigger impact on faith than the scientific revolution, he says. If God is slowly dying, it's because Christians stopped seeking God and started to focus on being good. His point here, of course, isn't that seeking to be good or better or more Christ-like is bad or kills our wonder. It's that someone doesn't have to believe in God in their mind to be a good person. Subsequently, many realize in their quest to be good that they don't need God and eventually abandon pursuing him. This abandonment of God for good, in both senses of the meaning, is what ultimately destroys the wonder of so many. Sadly, those who ditch God in their pursuit of goodness over godliness and therefore lose their enchantment fail to see the bewildering, enchanting flood tide of the gospel in the first place. They become blinded to a gospel that loudly announces the incarnation, then transfigures the whole fabric of life for us and delivers it back to us and us back to it in the seamlessness that we lost at our exile from Eden. Once again, we may stand in the proper relation to things as lords over them and not as their slaves. Once more, we stand in our true Adam-like dignity because of the second Adam, Jesus, and may begin to learn anew the solemn office for which we were created, namely to bless God and lead the whole creation in that blessing, which is a quote from Thomas Howard. If that's not enchanting, nothing else in all our universe is either. The wardrobe ushering us to Narnia is closed for business, and we may as well all go back to sleep. For Beck, the hyper-focus on the rationality of faith, especially in the Protestant camp, has led to too many books and podcasts. Oops. Too much talking. Disenchantment is often a sign that you've lost touch with the aesthetic and effable aspects of faith. If you're struggling with disenchantment, odds are you're thinking rather than paying attention. Put similarly, Peter Kraft said, our culture has filled our heads but emptied our hearts, stuffed our wallets but starved our wonder. It has fed our thirst for facts, but not for meaning or mystery. It produces nice people, not heroes. Maybe this is why comics and superhero movies are so popular and captivating. We all long for heroes. Most of us don't know any in real life. We certainly don't think we can become one. When our heads are filled at the expense of empty hearts, we live with a clanky hollowness. This is how the detached, objective scientific gaze can become so diabolical. When we know something, it loses its capacity to surprise and startle us. Life becomes factual, objectified, stripped of magic and mystery, says Richard Beck. In an age of hope, men looked up at the night sky and saw the heavens. In an age of hopelessness, they simply call it space, Peter Crave said. Enchantment is seeing with shiny new eyes. In Beck's view, it's not a fanciful fleeing or escaping the world. Enchantment is rediscovering the world. Enchantment is looking at green again and being startled anew, seeing the world shine again like transfiguration. Seeing the world shine again reminds me of the deeply powerful and convicting moments I'd observed my young son, only a few months at the time, look at his surroundings outside with eyes wide open. He was mesmerized by the sky, the grass, by the wind, by this huge and glorious world around him. It would always leave me wondering, how long ago did I quit being awed simply by the beauty of the things outside? I can remember. The loss of wonder was a gradual death, I suppose. It started whatever day I first stopped staring with mouth wide open at the orange and pink sunset sky brush stroked under the silver clouds. Instead, I probably yawned, and that was the beginning of the end. It was at least the beginning of a hibernation of sorts when my wonder went to sleep. The reality is our sense of wonder should wake and stir us. The great German philosopher Joseph Pieper describes wonder this way. Wonder acts upon a man like shock. He's moved and shaken, and in the dislocation that exceeds all that he had taken for granted as being natural or self-evident, loses its compact solidity and obviousness. He is literally dislocated and no longer knows where he is. Ooh, that's a mouthful. My young son's expression showed this very thing. The beauty and bigness of the world around him dislocated him from the familiar. He was enchanted. When was the last time you felt that where are we rush of awe fill your body or flash in your mind? Maybe it was on a spectacular hike or turning a new bend on a river you were canoeing. Maybe it was listening to some incredible music or reading an imaginative piece of captivating fiction. Maybe it was reading a psalm that opened your mind to God's greatness and nearness. The point and power of wonder, it seems, according to Pieper, is to move and shock us. Living with lives full of wonder should regularly put us in contexts that make us ask, where are we? This includes everyday things we once saw as ordinary. And maybe when we start to live again with recaptured awe and wonder, we'll see and re-see the ordinary things in life with new eyes and ask, where was I all this time? Since God's crackling and sparkling world was always before us. As Timothy Radcliffe says, if we do not look downwards and immerse ourselves in the delightful complexity of our world, think of the 350,000 species of beetle already identified. How shall we look upwards and glimpse infinity? We should all hope to be infants again, or at least poets, as we look at ourselves and at the world. Peter Crave says, the eye of the poet sees less clearly, but sees further than the eye of the scientist. I'll take poetry and seeing further any day, as poetry sees the world through enchanted eyes, bringing into view the deeper meanings, signs, and mysteries at work in everyday things. Richard Beck encourages us to proactively reorient our days and time so that our attention is shifted. The liturgical traditions show us how to push against disenchantment by paying attention to space and time. Nurture enchantment, he says, by attending to aesthetics and the use of sacramental. Fill your spaces with material reminders of spiritual realities. Cultivate your physical world like you'd cultivate a garden. Train your attention the same way you train your body. Beyond space, enchant time as well. Usher your heart and mind through sacred seasons and holy days. Wait during Advent, celebrate during Christmas, all 12 days of it. Fast during Lent, and party during Easter. Let God show you what time it is. Is it ever too late to regain our sense of awe and wonder? C.S. Lewis certainly didn't think so. Someday, he said, you will be old enough to start reading fairy tales again. I've watched over and over how my dad, now my late dad, who's passed away, lived with cognitive crippling late-stage dementia. He would outwonder me, judging by the enthralled expression on his face as we both viewed the same pasture. the same sunset, the same ordinary things of our everyday. Except to Dad, they didn't appear ordinary. To him, it seemed they were signposts from heaven, daily paint splatters that dripped from heaven's canvas onto earth for us to enjoy. And even the insidious, thieving disease of dementia is powerless to take away or tarnish God's painted sky. Beauty is a powerful force to be reckoned with. In fact, doctors are now prescribing outside time as an actual form of treatment, with research showing significant improvements in certain mental and physical illnesses. As we recapture awe and wonder in the everyday moments of God's beauty and grace, may we again feel the pulse in our necks surging with excitement, as when we were kids, lost in imaginative adventures of pirates, castles, princesses, and evil queens in the woods on hot August afternoons. There's more to the implications of lost enchantment than we often realize. When we no longer live regularly in awe and wonder, it's not just that we're not living to our full capacity. It's not just that we're missing out on life or our full potential, or that we've slid into a listless, bored life. I think we're actually failing to live out the fullness of our humanity in the way God intended for us, even in our fallen state and our fallen world. And I'll close with this from this chapter. Our response, it seems, should be to live regularly in wild-eyed awe and wonder, which are also acts of beautiful worship, a testament and unspoken thanks to the glory and grace of God. As Irenaeus famously said, the glory of God is a human being fully alive. Our lack of fully living alive also has a ripple effect around us. The tragedy of a life that is never fully lived is not simply the loss of that one life. The tragedy is the endless number of lives that would have been forever changed if we had chosen to live differently. And that is the end of reading time with Travis on the podcast. And I just wanted to share that. And so I hope if you got through that lengthy reading with me of the book, there was something inspiring or pulled on your heart or kind of illuminated something for maybe in a new way. Also, Shiny Eyes, I'll have the link to the book. If any of that sounds interesting to you, I do talk about kind of seeing through the lenses of joy, tears, beauty, and hope. As a Christian and as a human who is just trying our best to make it in a dim and shadowy and sometimes scary world. So glad to share this. I hope wherever you are listening that you are encouraged to wake up tomorrow or even today wherever you are at to maybe see the world new and differently, or and find things that bring you to life, that give you life, and do them. We need to do that stuff. We need to more regularly feel like we're alive. And I think when we feel like we're alive, we do live, and we give more. I think worship can happen more. So anyway, there's something there to that. So thanks for hanging out today. And until next time, I hope you can find inspiration, find illumination. Maybe you can see God in new ways, and ways he's lighting up your life in ways you hadn't seen before. And lean into the things that you love to do. Thanks for listening to the podcast today. I hope you found something helpful, hopeful, or thought-provoking. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to any resources mentioned in the podcast. And we also have links in the notes for our own resources to check out. We would really love to hear from you. And we're also really grateful for your support by sharing the podcast episodes with your friends and family and leaving a rating and review. May we all regain and maintain our wonder, hope, and inspiration as we look at our ordinary through new and fresh eyes.